So I gotta say, if you're Mr. Gimu right now, or the CEO of Ubisoft, you gotta be turning in your sheets. You gotta be figuring out what the heck is going on, because nothing seems to be going right for Ubisoft. And with all of this, before I get too far in, I have not seen any really directed anger. I don't say hate, but directed anger towards like games like X Defiant in this. Really, we're gonna break down Assassin's Creed, and virtually every other Ubisoft title other than X Defiant, and it needs to be thrown in here as well because unfortunately, it was a utter letdown. The expectations were so high; it had a year delay, and then what was actually presented to us felt worse than we were given at the beta, and then now we're just being drip fed this content in a way that's just, it's not enough to keep players around. And somebody who, I loved X Defiant when it first came out, but it just, it left me wanting more. I think with some of the other things, it's like I liked what X Defiant could be, or at least the thought of what it is, more than the actual product. And that's why I stopped playing the actual product, because I'm like, man, this is not as good as what I thought it could be and should be. But for Assassin's Creed, dear players, Assassin's Creed Shadows is a dream project for us, finally bringing the series to feudal Japan with many features developed with our community in mind. With your community, with your DEI community in mind, such as parkour and renewed stealth, brought with the new technology, all set in a beautiful immersive world. This is an ambitious addition for our franchise, with a rich experience that could be lived through the eyes of two unique protagonists. But we realize we need more time. We need more time to polish and refine the experience, pushing for some of our key features. As such, we have made a decision to postpone the release date from to February 14th. Isn't that Valentine's Day? Either way, I know February is Black History Month, which is perfect for the samurai of this game. The game will be released on a broad range of platforms, including Steam. Wow.
Wow.
So they're getting rid of the Ubisoft Connect launcher as well. You can just get this right on Steam, which is probably a good thing overall, just because ideally you don't want to be restricted to the player base that you want to get your games to, right? Kind of makes sense. Additionally, pre-orders will be refunded. Pre-orders will be refunded, and all future pre-orders will be granted the first expansion for free. Wow.
Wow.
We understand this decision will come as disappointing news, especially to those who have been waiting patiently. But we sincerely believe that this is the best interest and the best course of action for the game, and ultimately your experience as a player. Rest assured, we are looking forward to the moment you will embark on a adventure with Naoe and Yusake. Until then, we thank you for your ongoing support. Marcus Alexis on behalf of all teams working on Assassin's Creed. With this news, if we look over the past 5 days, the Ubisoft stocks have just gone down. And I don't want to pull up another tab and to look at this, but it's just year over year, it's just down. And every time we go a little further, it's just more aggressively down. 6 months down. Year one down. Everything bad. Red numbers bad. Everything bad.
Okay, here we go. Ooh.
So I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that Assassin's Creed is going to be a flop at launch. I don't think anyone's really excited for it. But they already released Star Wars Outlaw, and we know how bad of a game that is. I don't think we've seen one positive thing about this game online. And I just want to go over a few things. I put down some notes on my phone on why Star Wars Outlaw itself didn't succeed. Another failure on Ubisoft with ultimately the high cost. I mean, it's competing against games like Wukong that came out this year, which gave us much more enjoyable content. There's a lack of character customization. I feel like in a Star Wars Outlaws game, having to play as a particular outlaw that no one was really excited to play as, no one wanted to play. There's so many other actual characters in Star Wars and cool characters that people would want to play than this just made up person. I think everyone's favorite thing about the game was probably the pet in itself. And with a lack of player customization and a lack of being able to really travel, the immersion in this world it never felt fully there. It just felt like you were just kind of like kicking around on a sandbox and just a PlayStation, a world. And we don't. Let's not even talk about the performance issues. We've already seen performance issues on the trailers with Assassin's Creed, and we know about the performance issues in X Defiant. So in Star Wars Outlaw, we were getting visual glitches, frame rate problems, and we know about the AI behavior. And I think from just the overall generic look to the way the interactions just felt generic, I think this stems into the problem with the overall quest line of the games, where things just felt like they were repetitive and the engagement sucked. And it felt like the engagement sucked because it was super inconsistent. Because if you had to open up like these little side missions or the side quests, you would have some, I would say, engaging things. But that was the only time that you really felt like you were engaged throughout the game. Everything else was just kind of like meh. And once more, with it being visual like glitches and frame rates, like it just every time you wanted to get immersed into the game, it pulled you out. And I'm genuinely curious what is going to be happening with Ubisoft, because I mean, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you could look at maybe the CEOs are crashing the stock so that the family can come in and buy it and get out non-family and non-nepotistic people who are in Ubisoft. I mean, that's just a fun conspiracy. But regardless, we're going to know because Ubisoft is launching a board of investigation. And this does not seem great. I read, the board is launching an investigation. This seems not great. In the light of recent challenges, we acknowledge the need for greater efficiency while delighting players. The players are great, and we have not been meeting expectations. So as a result, beyond the first important short-term action point undertaken, the executive committee, the committee that is executive, that is underneath me, under the super board of the board of directors, or the supervision, because they are children and they need supervision from the board of directors, is launching and reviewed and aiming further improving on execution, notably in its player-centric approach. I'm sorry, guys. I'll start that over. In the light of recent challenges, we acknowledge the need for greater efficiency while delighting players. As a result, beyond the first important short-term actions undertaken, the executive committee, under the supervision of the board of directors, is launching a review aimed at furthering improving our execution, notably in this player-centric approach, and accelerating our strategic path towards higher performing model to benefit our stakeholders and shareholders. To me, this is still going to be the biggest issue, is that the benefit of the stakeholders and the shareholders is not always going to be the gamers and the player base. And this is kind of it's like, it's cool that you could buy into Ubisoft as a publicly traded company, but what's frustrating is that more gamers are not doing this, and instead we're getting large corporations, the BlackRocks of the world, the Mark Cubans of the world, who are just, I don't want to say Mark Cuban and BlackRock may be a bad example, but just people and companies who could just dump mucho amounts of money into these studios, right? So now the studio is obligated to make them happy instead of the player base happy. But if we can get a large amount of just small people, but a large quantity over, like truly quantity over the quality in this case, of players that buy into the who buy shares of Ubisoft, then Ubisoft becomes responsible for the gamers and for us. Man, I really worded that poorly, but I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. And if you are, please like this video, subscribe, share it with your friends. I know I've been doing a lot of political stuff just because of politics is flooding my timeline, but I just like reacting to shit that I see on the timeline. I'm a gamer at the end of the day. I'm a 30-year-old dude who just grew up with anime, grew up with sports, played sports at a high level, loves gaming, and I'm just here to build a little community and see what you guys have to think.